But yesterday was the inquest into the sad death of Strictly dancer Robin Windsor. Robin was found dead in a London hotel room in 2023, with police later finding 2 suicide notes. In court yesterday, a letter was read out from Robin's very close friend and former Strictly partner, Lisa Riley. Lisa said that after being dropped from the show, he kept slipping deeper into a depression. Lisa said his glow had gone, adding that she messaged Robin after seeing him share a really dark post on Facebook, and she said, "I texted him straight away and he replied he was fine, just the usual ups and downs of life." And we know that Lisa was a constant support to Robin. She described him as her rock. And she clearly wanted to be his rock, but it's very difficult as the friend.
I think it is more difficult as a friend when the person you are supporting is always positive and is well known for being positive and is always on high. And so recognizing that my friend, my family member is struggling sometimes can be difficult. And when you are in those positions, because I have not a lot of friends, but I have one friend who's really depressed. And it's really difficult to have those conversations, because what do you say? And how do you make sure that whatever it is you're saying resonates with them, and you're going to stop them from making a decision that is really big and life-changing? My brother, I've spoken very openly about my brother as well. He took his own life when he was 16. And I could still see the effects on my mother. So those decisions have long-lasting repercussions on the people that are closest to you and they love you. But then again, I look at my mom and I think she was a first-time mom. That was her first son. What could she have done and how could she have recognized it? Because we talk a lot about communication and talk and talk and talk. But if you have to bring it up to your child who's a teenager, what do you say? Where do you start? And how does that
You were very young when he...
I was 2.
Yeah.
So I don't remember. So my most fondest memory are just pictures, you know, of him like playing with me, feeding me. And so I remember the idea simply through stuff Mutsi and my other sisters have told me. He was fun, he was loved, and to them he was a positive person. And so they went to school one day and then they came home and Mom was like, "Your brother's gone." And he took his own life. So, again, a very positive person. How do you support?
I mean, it's always going to, and forgive me if I'm going where I shouldn't go.
No, go on.
Obviously, that's always going to be a shock. But did your brother have a history of mental health?
No,
do you mind me asking?
No, I don't mind at all. Honestly, I've spoken about it. He didn't. He was the only thing where a lot of family secrets, as you can imagine, in Africa, there are a lot of family secrets. And the way they came out, I think, just wasn't how he expected them to come out. And so, again, it's how do young kids handle tough situations, trauma, news? Are they actually, are their brains fully developed to handle things that us adults can sometimes handle? And I don't think he handled it in a way that we would have expected. And in our family, we still celebrate him. We still talk about him like he's still there. We still say, "Do you know what?" to my daughter, "If my brother was around, you wouldn't be behaving like this, because there'll be someone to tell you off." But yeah, we still feel, even today, the fact that he's not there. Like, I wish I would have had a brother growing up and an older one. And I'm sure Mutsi doesn't want to be the first one planning all the holidays. She's like, "Oh, I wish somebody else could be doing this." But yeah, the whole, I think the whole situation is very sensitive. And even as a friend, and even if you are supporting, it's also taking that responsibility on taking all of that information.
And I mean, we do talk about mental health so much more, which is obviously positive, but that doesn't mean that, you know, there's now an easy answer. You know, talking about it doesn't necessarily... I mean, there's lots of initiatives. This is an interesting one. This is Ben West, who's 25, and he launched an initiative called Reasons to Stay. His own little brother took his own life. I think we've got a little clip of this.
On Wednesday, it was exactly 8 years since my little brother Sam took his own life and died. And I decided that I was going to use that day to launch a website called Reasons to Stay, which would deliver letters from strangers to people in Sam's situation who needed a moment of hope and warmth and connection. And I got a message today. And I'm not going to share the message, but what I can share is that it worked.
Well, he does so much, Ben, you know, he clearly feels very passionately after the loss of his brother. Do you know what works, Nadia? What doesn't work?
Well, I mean, oh my God, didn't you just want to reach in there and give him a hug? Because that, you know, the impact of all of that. And, you know, I've spoken often, and Mark, my husband, very bravely talks about his mental health challenges. And, you know, just last week on our podcast, we had a really big conversation where I said to him, we hadn't been getting on that great for, you know, a few weeks, and I knew he was struggling with his mental health, because when you've got a person that is high functioning, and I know there'll be people that are watching and listening that will identify with it. When you've got somebody that's high functioning, that's working, that's smiling, that's doing all of that, and you are the person that they can just take that, just ease into the pain. Or because I always say, like, mental health is like, if we could hear the scream of the pain, we would be able to be there more, not only for that person, but for the people supporting him, rather like that young man there, you know, his pain. And, you know, this conversation I was having with Mark, I said, and that's, I love him so much because I can talk so honestly to him. I said, you know, sometimes I don't know where I start and where I end within your mental health challenges, bipolar 2, which basically means not the massive highs and lows, but it's this sort of highs and lows. And sometimes I don't know where I am.
What do you mean by that?
Well, because I'm very tough in relationships. You know, I'm very loving, but I also, you know, won't take stuff. So sometimes when I'm compromising beyond where I would compromise with somebody else, it's working out where the depression is causing the irritation with me or whatever, and so sometimes if he's had a longer bout of like highs and lows, I don't know which way is up, and it can be really disorientating, and there's always guilt. So like you're constantly trying to, but we had this conversation, and I said to, you know, and the thing that was so important, if somebody is here struggling with a mental health condition and you've got a partner that might be feeling some of this, really listen to them, because so many people get divorced through a mental health condition, and it is about both people in your better times when you're not so low. Please speak to the one that loves you and is there for you a lot, because they'll be having a different struggle that they will put to the bottom of the list often. Because they've got to keep you. And he was so brilliant, and actually we've had such a lovely few weeks since that as well, because it's just, you know, finding that balance here. And yesterday we'd had a really good morning. We went to the park, and he went, oh my God, he just went, oh, like that, and I saw it just fall from him, and he wasn't hiding it, he wasn't tight with it, he just let me see it. And I said, there you go, you see, well, let's just go for a walk, have small thoughts, don't go for big thoughts, keep having small thoughts. And we got through it, and it passed, and then we went to the next bit. But it's harder to help when somebody doesn't help you help.
I think that's so brave of you, firstly, with the up and down, because you can very clearly see when there are highs and lows in an individual. So I really just commend you. Like, you're doing an amazing job as a partner, as a friend, and as a wife, and as a mum. I was just sort of relaying those kind of struggles when it's a child. You know, we've had some we've lost somebody to suicide in our family, but also the struggles that happen within mental health around self-harm. So it's when a young person is going through that, and it's amazing that you've got to this point where you can have those conversations about it. But having, you know, a younger person who maybe isn't able to articulate what's going on or what they're actually feeling, and being able to kind of reach them, trying to reach them at that point is really difficult. And like you say, not overstepping the mark, not pushing them too far so they feel even more alienated, or that you're trying to force them to have some kind of conversation that they're not ready to have. But equally being responsible, because you want to be able to see those differences in the person, notice the change of the personality, or notice the harm that's happening and that you can visually see, as well as what's going on inside that you can't see.
Not bearing full responsibility, because you will go mad if you do that. You know, you can support, but you cannot bear full responsibility.
How do you start that conversation, though?
For me, I think in our family, you can see from the outside, because there are obvious things that if they're self-harming that you can notice. But I think for me, it's about surrounding them and normalising it in some way, and having those really open, frank conversations. Also, you know, there are really great organisations like YPAS, Young Persons Advisory company, that literally look after young people's mental health. And I think it's being open enough to have those conversations, pointing them in the right directions, and making home a safe place where they don't feel like they're going to be judged for any behaviours that they have, or that they feel like they have to do, they're compulsed to do. That's, for me, the thing that's worked in our family.
But it's certainly something there's no handbook for, is there? And to a certain extent, it's learning on the job. You know? We're obviously sending all of our love to Lisa, of course, and all of Robin's loved ones. If you're struggling or you're worried about someone, always try to reach out to another person if you can. There's support on our website as well, itv.com/helpline.